All right, Tom, let's kick it off with the big news headline of today. Elon Musk takes 9.2% stake in Twitter after hinting at a shakeup. Just to show everybody the hint, he tweeted on March 25th, the consequences of this poll will be very important. So he had basically asked, free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? And 70% of people said no. I thought it was funny because for the majority of that poll, 69% of people were saying no. And we all know his love for 420, 69 and those numbers. And I just have to say I did call it. I saw that poll and I quote retweeted on Twitter. I said, Elon about to buy Twitter or start his own or something, LOL. And this was for me a bit obvious because we're in the age where even Trump is trying to create Truth Social. So I guess there's so much we could ask about this, like what are the implications for Twitter? What are the implications for Tesla, SpaceX? Tom, what are your initial thoughts?
And also my initial thought is there's massive implications to Trump's SPAC. Truth Social is going to be the big casualty of this for sure, because Elon just took their ticket. This was basically the whole purpose of Truth Social. They'll have to find a way to reinvent themselves, which I'm not sure they can. Also, not sure that Trump is interested in that. He's basically just focused on the next new shining thing, which is 2024. So in a sense, I think the biggest loser here would be Truth Social. As far as this whole story, it's insane. Look, you called it. And I said it in my video this morning on my own channel. I said, this man called it right away. You deserve props. I don't always give you props, but when I do, good job, man. So you called it. I think when he posted the Twitter poll, he already knew that the deal was done. How about that?
Wow. This is an interesting call.
I think he knew the deal was done.
He already bought the shares, you think?
He knew that they're going to say yes because it's so glaringly obvious that there's a big corporate sponsorship problem on Twitter, people getting banned if they say things that don't align with certain companies, with certain influential people. How about the guy who got his account banned for following Nancy Pelosi's husband trades, which is public information? I mean, if you say things about COVID that people, mainstream media don't agree with, you get banned. Politics, if you say things that don't go, it's real hardcore censorship. Now, what I absolutely love about what he did right now is I don't think he gives a shit about Twitter. The only reason he bought Twitter, for a guy like him, what does he care about Twitter? Is because he knows he's the last guy with enough money, clout, and power to save us from going to the deep of basically the loss of freedom of speech is a big, big problem in the US. I think him doing it is a good deal because it's undervalued regardless. So he's going to make money off it anyways, like he always does. But I think what's motivating him is basically he's volunteering to save us from this hellhole that Twitter has become. Basically a bunch of tweets about Will Smith's slap, and if you tweet about anything serious that don't go along the mainstream media narrative, you get banned right away.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting take that Twitter is undervalued. Twitter's trading at like $39 a share. I believe it's probably, when I did my DCF, it was about, somewhere in that 35. But it actually depends on if they can really do their monetization stuff like Twitter Blue, Spaces, and all that stuff. So they obviously killed other things, and they're doing really well. They bought Review that competes with Substack. So it all depends on there. So in terms of what I think valuation, it could be undervalued, it could be fairly valued or whatever, but it is up 22%. After news of this happening, which is, really great. Actually, the world's richest man becoming on your board, maybe possibly the biggest or one of the biggest shareholders. And this is just the beginning. I think that he's going to, probably buy more and hopefully gain control of the company. So the big thing here is that social media companies have been notorious for being Silicon Valley oriented. The people that have their finger behind the ban button and the mute button and the shadow ban button are sitting in California. And I mean, we're all human, right? They have their political leanings and biases. You're right. So and Elon has been just he degaffs about what he says, right? He's just a world's richest man, and he's honestly he's been my hero since college. And he's been my password a lot of that time. That's how much I've loved Elon. And he's a true American, right? Immigrant, super smart. I don't even say much more about that. But he believes in the American system, the innovation and the wealth creation that can be born here. So that is a controversial statement in today's environment for some reason. So someone at the helm of one of the major social media companies that believes in the American system, wow, it's so against the grain to believe in capitalism and like pro-innovation. And I that's refreshing as a capitalist, as a investing oriented person. I love it. I love it. And I agree. I kind of agree with you. That's interesting. I wouldn't qualify him as like a right wing guy, right? But he is libertarian. So a libertarian tilted major social media site is an interesting take, Tom, that it might kill Truth Social. Interesting.
I think that he's proven to be a freedom of speech absolutist, where he had the latest incident when they asked him to block Russian propaganda on Starlink, and he said, look, I'm not controlling the freedom of speech. He basically proved, I think we're lucky that we have the world's richest, most powerful man to be a freedom of speech absolutist, because otherwise we will all be fucked. Now, just to kind of add on your point, I'm not going to share your man crush on Elon. That was a little bit cringe. But as far as where I think this move takes him, I think it's kind of the perfect FU to the SEC. Imagine what they did to him for his tweets, and now he's just buying the thing. He's basically, you can't keep me off my own company. What I think about Elon is he's crazy enough and that's the only thing that might save Truth Social, if he buys it just to shut it down. He might just buy it just to kill it. And that's the only thing that can save Truth Social. Otherwise, they're pretty much fucked.
Yeah, I don't think Truth Social. I agree. I mean, like, I think it was tentative if they were going to succeed in the first place. Now you have if Elon can change the culture to Twitter at least being like neutral and pro freedom of speech, and we do know that like Jack Dorsey is like a very controversial guy, but he's talked about like a what's it called, Blue Sky? Someone correct me in the comments, but I believe they have this stealth project that is building Twitter on the blockchain that will be more freedom of speech, if you will.
Why do you need blockchain to just stop banning people for saying the things you don't agree with?
Because let's be clear, like centralized companies ban, I think, in no small part because they are virtue signaling and are afraid of regulators or the herd coming after them. So if you're on the blockchain, there's no like centralized company to like attack. That's at least the thought about why a blockchain based social media company won't be attackable, because there's nothing to attack. It's just a distributed database.
Could we agree that this is just the beginning and he's going to buy the whole thing if they let him?
Yeah, I agree. And
you might see an ugly bloodbath if they fight him.
Yeah, like a poison pill, even maybe.
Yeah,
interesting.
They might really want to fight him on this. Let's see. But if they let him, he'll take the whole thing. I have no doubt. I think even Dan Ives, a friend of the show from Wedbush, just said a couple of minutes ago, he thinks this is just the beginning.
Yep. I mean, I totally agree with him. I mean, he's a good analyst too. And yeah, up 21% pre-market. I think that's all. It's mostly just hype because, like, what's the value creation? But one could make an argument that this changes the game. This changes the game for them, possibly.
I mean, having him as a boss and on the board has a lot of value.
Yeah.